We discuss the 2021 budget with the Finance Minister, getting the nation back into positive growth territory and cushioning the impact of COVID-19. How is this budget the driver in overcoming the pandemic, and how will it address livelihood concerns? All this now on Money Matters. Hello and welcome to Money Matters with me, Zahir Kelvinong Abdullah. The 2021 budget is the largest budget in Malaysian history. At 322.5 billion ringgit, the budget is expected to boost economic recovery, growth and investment. Today, we welcome Finance Minister Dato Tengku Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz on the show to discuss and analyse the 2021 budget. Thank you for coming back on the program again, Dato Sri.
Thank you, Kelvin, for having me.
Can we start off by talking about the targeted aid, basically providing assistance to targeted groups, which basically are only for those really deserving that should basically get the assistance. So this basically reflects the severity of issues faced by the people in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. So has the financially vulnerable been expanded?
Yep. Yes, again, thank you, Kelvin, for having me. If you look at the targeted approach that we've announced in the budget, it does cover not just the B40, it covers the M40, but of course the targeted group, the vulnerable group, we have enlarged it, as you have correctly said. Initially, it was just covering the B40 salary of 4,000 and below. We've increased that to 5,000 and below. And as well as we've increased last time only for youth, for those who are single above the age of 40. But now those who are not married, above 21, will also get the help. So from 4.6 million people, Malaysians, that will get this Bantuan Prihatin Rakyat, it will go up to 8.1 million Malaysians who will be getting this direct cash benefit. But on top of that, we have through Jabatan Kebajikan, through the ministry, we are allocating 600 million more to the Jabatan Kebajikan to help those, especially in the what do you call it, those that are really in need to help of help from the government.
Now, looking at the budget, the biggest in Malaysian history, so a lot of quarters have basically are wondering where is it coming from. Are you looking at local borrowings or both from domestic and abroad?
Okay, if we look at where we are today, the 4 stimulus packages that we announced, Prihatin PKS Tambahan, Penjana and also Kita Prihatin, we have funded it through domestic borrowings. So the same will be for the budget. Of course, the budget will have revenue as well. There will be shortfall. So we're assuming, we're forecasting deficit of around 5.4% for now, assuming an economic growth of between 6.5 to 7.5% GDP-wise. So there will be a shortfall, of course, in terms of our revenue to cover the costs, the expenses that you've mentioned, 322.75 billion in total, of which 69 billion is development expenditure. So we will tap the markets. Whether it's domestic or international, I think given the liquidity that we have here in Malaysia, we are planning to tap just the domestic market. Interest rate is very low still. OPR cut, today OPR is around 1.75. So there is an opportunity for us to continue to tap the domestic market, hence reducing our risk to forex exposure as well.
Right. Now, on Sunday, after you appeared on Bulletin Utama's special program, and as you announced in the 2021 budget, the facility of the EPF Account 1 withdrawal for 600,000 contributors. But now there are plans to extend it for even more contributors. What is the figure that you'd be comfortable with?
Okay, well, I can't say yet this weekend about what EPF will be announcing because we are still in discussion with EPF. What I announced in the budget was, you're right, it's targeting to about 600,000 EPF contributors, but I feel that can be more. More people can be included in this Account 1 withdrawal. The amount as well, we are looking at the amount. So far, the announcement says 500 a month for 12 months with a total of 6,000 ringgit. But also you need to bear in mind that we have also announced in the Prihatin package the I Lestari program, where contributors can take out around 6,000 ringgit for 12 months with 500 ringgit a month from account 2, right? And to date, more than 11 billion ringgit has been taken out from account 2. About 4.7 million Malaysians have taken out from account 2. But this time for account 1, we feel that it should be more targeted at those who really need the support from the government. That's why we have this targeted approach. But I understand that there are also needs to take out from EPF. So we are looking at it closely. We hear the concerns and the plight of many Malaysians. So we need to be open about this and look at the pros and cons.
Yeah. Are you looking at more than 1 million contributors that will be able to make use of this facility?
Well, I hope so. I hope we can, because there are many Malaysians who are affected. If you look at the unemployment rate, it's now at around 4.6% latest. Because EPM is more the formal sector, right? Those are informal sectors as well are affected, right?
Okay. One more thing before we go for the commercial break. The government is committed to acquiring the COVID-19 vaccines through its participation in the COVID-19 vaccine global access, COVAX. If I'm not mistaken, estimated cost of about 3 billion. If the vaccine is basically not yet developed, will this budget be reviewed from time to time?
Yeah. So in the announcement, in my budget speech, I said that we are committed, the government is committed to fund for the acquisition or the procurement of vaccine. COVAX is probably 10% of that, but we still need to procure more than that. The total estimate given to me by the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation is around 3 billion ringgit to vaccinate around 70% of the population. So that is the amount that we have committed that we will spend. It is going to go to Parliament. They will be under the COVID fund, right? Kumpulan Wang Amanah COVID. But the timing, as you asked, I think that is still in discussion. The Cabinet has been briefed about the latest discussions that the Ministry of Science and Technology and Innovation, together Ministry of Health, is having with the various parties. Of course, the latest being with Pfizer, right? So that's something that we look forward to. And then our Ministry of Foreign Affairs as well have been open doors for us to continue our discussions with China, with Russia. So we are optimistic. I think you've seen some good news, and stock markets have rallied on that news,
yes, very
right?
much so.
So that's, I'm optimistic that it'll be sooner rather than later.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. We're going for a short break now. Find us on Twitter and share your thoughts on the 2021 budget and its allocations. Welcome back to Money Matters. If you're just joining us, we're speaking to the Finance Minister, Dato Tengku Zafrul, Tengku Aziz. Looking at the M40 group now, those from the M40 group said that the budget must create a safety net for the poor. And they say that, for example, houses are unaffordable to them currently. But isn't the 2021 budget looking at the concerns of the people at large and to provide immediate relief to those in urgent need, like you mentioned just now, employment issues as well?
Yep. Yeah, so there are two categories here. There's B40 and M40, right? We've seen a lot of cash benefits that's been given to B40 and various other initiatives. For M40, we need a different approach, right? For M40, I mean, some have fallen to a B40 because of the loss of employment and various other factors. But the M40, I think you said about employment, that's right. We have announced an allocation of about 3.7 billion ringgit to create 500,000 jobs, right? That is through training, reskilling and upskilling, through hiring subsidy, and through various commitment given by various companies to employ, especially fresh graduate and also the M40s, the middle management. We've also done a lot of initiatives through the tax reforms that we've announced. We've reduced the taxation rate for the M40 by 1%. A lot of tax relief on education, on healthcare, on sports. We have the My 30 subsidies, transport subsidies are mainly for them. And of course, we have also reduced the EPF contribution from 11% to 9%, and that frees up about 9.3 billion ringgit of money to the economy.
Right. So let's say if the M40 were not satisfied, can they make a representation to the government through basically consumer groups and other stakeholders so that their benefits could be reviewed? This is, after all, as you mentioned, an expansionary budget. So can this be done?
Yes, it can. It can be done. It can be done in the sense that we are always open as a government to listen to any ideas, especially good ideas. For example, this budget, we've listened to 6,600 opinions and proposals, including for the first time the oppositions, right? So this time we are taking a similar approach. We are listening at the debate that's happening in Parliament. After this, God willing, inshallah, if we get the budget approved, the budget can still be improved, for sure, right? There are a lot of policy decisions that can be improved. There's also allocation that can be improved. And we've shown that in the last 4 stimulus packages where we continuously improve on what we have. That's why we have Prihatin, then we have Prihatin Pikas Tambahan. So any plans, I think, in my view, should be a dynamic plan, similar to budget. There's always a review. And every time the government has announced a budget, there will be a supplementary budget, if need be. There's always a review every 3 months of the budget anyway. So if you remember, even for budget 2020, the forecast for deficit was 3.2%. That was the beginning of the year. And then you have COVID-19, you have various other challenges, you have the economy challenges, the health challenges. And at the end, after 4 revisions, our budget deficit is now up to 6%. So I think we as government have to take a very proactive approach, but at the same time, a dynamic approach.
Right. So looking at the job sustainability, basically to create 500,000 jobs, 3.7 billion, basically, as you mentioned, has been set aside for upskilling and retraining programs if the COVID-19 pandemic is prolonged. So what is the impact on employment, as we probably could see a drop in consumer spending?
Yeah, that's true. If we look at our unemployment rate when we first announced the MCO, that was around in April, right? In May, sorry. March, April, May. So the first number that came out, it peaked at 5.3% unemployment rate. That was in May, and that's the highest since 1989. That is, and then it went down as we opened up the economy, as the stimulus packages came in. It went down to 4.9, then 4.7, and most recently 4.6. So it does show a sign of improvement. However, having said that, it is still higher since 1989, still, right? Relative to other countries, we're doing better, but that's no excuse, right? So we need to continue with this. Your concern, you're right, there's a retail sector is affected still, more so recently, given the CMCO, right? And you will see that fourth quarter, some of the industries, especially the retail and the tourism. I think that these are the 2 sectors I think you have seen have improved. during the last 2 months, but because of CMCO, it has somewhat reduced again, right?
So looking at the upskilling and reskilling program, the allocation to retrain 8,000 airline staff basically is seen as a practical approach to keep unemployment low. Just very quickly, what are the areas you think that they can be trained for them?
Correct. So this is why we are engaging them directly. We have spoken to Malaysia Airlines, and I believe we'll be speaking to AirAsia soon, right? Where we get the employers to work with us and then retrain if they need to, because they are also branching to other areas within the company. Or we will work with other companies outside to place them out. So there will be different skill sets, because like Malaysia Airlines, they have the engineers all the way to the pilots and the stewards. So they have different skill sets which we can do the job matching for them, and we can do the reskilling and upskilling to match. Because the reskilling upskilling program, the commitment of the government is when you are being reskilled and upskilled, you must have a job at the end of the day.
Right. But looking at that, the direct assistance, of course, is definitely commendable. But looking forward, will the government look at the situation in its entirety, where airlines, an essential stakeholder in the tourism industry, must be protected?
Well, again, AirAsia is, of course, a private company, so I don't want to comment on that. I think I can give some comment on Khazanah's stake in Malaysia Airlines. So Khazanah, have been clear that they are now in the midst of restructuring Malaysia Airlines. Airline industry is a key to not just Malaysia's tourism, but to Malaysia economy as well. So it has to be looked at it in a serious manner. The good thing that is for Malaysia Airlines, Khazanah is a strong shareholder. So the government is comforted by that, and we are now leaving it to Khazanah to see through the restructuring of Malaysia Airlines.
Right. Okay, we've just got to go for a very short breather. In the meantime, connect with us on Twitter. Let us know what you think of today's discussion so far. Welcome back to Money Matters. Dato, let's talk about the growth. Analysts have said that measures addressed in the 2021 budget can further kickstart the nation's recovering economy towards targeted growth of 6.5% to 7.5% in 2021. So what is the feedback that you're getting, especially in terms of how Malaysia is handling the COVID-19 pandemic and taking external factors into account?
Yeah. We have been in discussions since the announcement of the budget with the analysts, the economists and the rating agencies. I think overall the feedback has been very positive. Of course, like you said, external demand has helped Malaysia actually. We have seen improvement in external demand, but more importantly, the global economy also is picking up. I think you've seen some of the numbers, but of course lately even Europe is slowing down again. For Malaysia, it's going to be key that economic resilience is one of the one of the three thrusts, right? So when I talk about economic resilience, it's about addressing some of the short-term concerns while building the foundation for the medium-term and longer-term. So we've announced various initiatives, investments, especially on the development expenditure side, that gives the right kind of ROI, or in this sense, economic definition of a multiplier. So the multiplier impact is going to be key. We've announced many continuation of the large-scale projects with the Pan Borneo Highway, the Gemas Johor double track, the Klang Valley double track. We've also announced the MRT3. So all this will help. And then, of course, the small contractors, the small projects. We have the fiberization under Jendela. That is around 7.5 billion. So all these are initiatives that should bring the right multiplier impact to the economy. Our assumption of the budget is that if these investments are made and deployed, it will bring about 4% to GDP.
Okay, good. Can I get you to comment? Because yesterday, Bank Negara Malaysia released the economic and financial developments for Q3, which shows our economy has recovered from a record low GDP of minus 17.1% in Q2 to minus 2.7% for this Q3. Was this to your expectations?
Yes, Bank Negara yesterday announced negative 2.7%, right, of the growth for GDP growth in the third quarter. It is, within our expectation. To be very honest with you, it is something that we hope to achieve around that region, because it means that we are on track to achieve the forecast of around 4.5%, negative 4.5% for the year. But having said that, the fourth quarter is going to be challenging, right? As I stated earlier in the interview, the CMCO will have some negative impact on GDP growth, given that our retail sector and tourism sector are somewhat affected by the CMCO.
Right. So it's because of the resurgence of the COVID-19 cases. You were saying that this would affect the momentum of recovery in Q4?
Yes, because there will be, at the end of the day, if we look at the number of people going to the malls, I mean, this is just empirical evidence. If we go down to the malls, you can see that less people are going out, right? So that will affect the retail sector, because our economy is a consumption-based economy as well, right? So if you look at the consumption numbers, it is moderating, it is slowing down. So therefore, the economic figures for fourth quarter will be not as strong as we expect, but I'm optimistic it'll be better than the third quarter.
Right. Moving on how we see the budget as being people first. On October 27, you said that you hope that the 2021 budget will not be politicized. Now, having tabled it now for at least a week, and a week has passed, how can we tell if there are elements of the budget being politicized?
Yeah. Well, announced the budget last Friday. It's been a week since then. I was present on Monday and Tuesday, and my deputies were also present on Tuesday and Thursday in Parliament to listen to the debate that's happening. I think at the end of the day, for me and for the government, we want to see this budget approved, because the budget, like you say, is rakyat-centric. It's a people-centric budget. So it's not a government budget. It's a budget for the people. So my hope is that the member of parliament from both sides will look at it as that, right, rather than as a political statement. Because this is not an election budget. This is a budget for people to combat COVID-19.
Right. Now, His Majesty the King himself has said that the budget is very important in tackling the COVID-19 pandemic and to revive the economy. His Majesty has advised the members of Parliament to fully support the budget without any disruption. So what is the direction that you see now based on the debates on the budget in Parliament last week, or some quarters have said the loan moratorium must be extended, supply bill must be reviewed before they support the budget?
Yeah. Well, member of parliaments will have to make a decision. In my view, again, I reiterate that this is a budget for the people, and I hope that all my colleagues in the parliament who sits with me in the Dewan Rakyat will agree that this is a budget that will help us fight COVID and get us through the economic crisis that we are facing today.
Final question before we go, like the market performance that you said, we have rallied tremendously well. So as at June end, you did say that within ASEAN markets, Malaysia was one of the best performing markets right now. What do you see in the future?
Yeah, just before meeting you, I checked where we are. And we are actually the only market in Southeast Asia that is positive. Stock market, we are up by 0.13% yesterday, and whereas Singapore is -15, Thailand is -15, Indonesia is -13, Philippines -9. So it shows confidence to me, but not just the equity markets, also the fixed income markets have shown a lot of strength in Malaysian bond markets.
Okay. Dato Sri, thank you very much for appearing again on Money Matters.
Thank you, Gavin.
Thank you for joining us on Money Matters, and before we go, find us on Twitter and let us know your thoughts about today's discussion. We'll be back next week with more money insights that matter, and we want to wish our viewers happy Deepavali, and remember to celebrate this festival of lights following SOPs. Till then, I'm Zahir Kelvin Ong Abdullah. Thanks for watching and stay safe.